So it's not particularly well known or recalled, but actually about 70 years ago, there was a City Club of Chicago, which we are, and there was another group out in the suburbs. And the two linked together and merged and became one. And at that time, the City Club, as you can see in our 990, which Ed works very hard to get out every year, and I think you should all go read it sometime. But if you see in our 990, our mission is to discuss topics of public interest to the entire region, and to the entire state of Illinois, and indeed the country. And never is our regional dimension, I think, on better display or clearer display than when we invite folks from outside the city to come downtown and to talk about issues from their perspective. It leavens the conversation for our inveterate City Club attendees, and I think through the press and the distribution of the talks, it helps everybody in the region understand better the many perspectives on the issues that confront us all. And that's why we so appreciate Dan Cronin, the chairman of the DuPage County Board, because since being elected, he has come here annually and spoken with us and our members about topics of interest to everybody in the region and in the state from the perspective of DuPage County. I know I don't think there's anybody who is a regular speaker who has better audiovisual than Dan Cronin. And we all remember his presentation on consolidation and the extraordinary artwork that he used to present that kind of thorny subject. I think we're going to hear from the chairman on that and probably other topics related to progress and development in DuPage County and in the region. And those are important topics for us all. So join me in a big, warm City Club, downtown Chicago welcome to the chairman of the DuPage County Board of Commissioners. Here he is, Dan Cronin. Yay. Oh.
Hey. All right. Thank you for that nice introduction. I'm going to have to cut my speech down a little bit now. But no, Chris Roebling is a dear friend. I love Chris. He's always been a friend, an advisor, a supporter, and it really is an honor to be here. I want to thank Chris for that stirring introduction. I want to thank Jay Doherty, of course. Jay's a great friend and committed to the civic welfare of the community. And so, and Ed Mazer and his wife, Myrna, give her my best. We worked in Springfield years ago. And before I thank all the other VIPs in the room, I think it's important to express, if I may, my feelings of gratitude, especially this year, for the work of the City Club. That's right, this City Club. Speaking at the City Club means you have to actually face people, right? And you have to actually present your ideas in person to an audience. And you can't hide behind 140 characters on Twitter or on your photos on Facebook. These face-to-face opportunities where everyone sits down to talk, listen, debate the ideas of the day, these kinds of forums are really becoming rare. And our political landscape is crowded with noise and argument and cable news smackdowns. And if you watch the local headlines so often, you know about City Club, you know that this is the room where news is made. This is the room where it happens, as the hit musical Hamilton says, right? So we're lucky to have City Club, a dynamic and unique forum. I'm gratified to see so many of my friends here today, members of our team out in DuPage County. If I may, please, I am really fortunate to work with some fabulous people. It's a team effort, without a doubt. I know John Curran is here, Grant Eckhoff, Brian Krajewski, Jim Zay, Pete DeCiani. Those are my board members. Please give them a round of applause. Tom Cross, an old friend, and we're sitting together. Tom Marcucci, we talked about. Darlene Rossetti, the Regional Superintendent of Schools. Gil Villegas, Joe Moreno, I'm really honored that you're here. Paul Hines, the county clerk, is here, and he's driving my mother home, so thank you, Paul. I really appreciate that. And I can't say enough good things about my friend Tony Preckwinkle. Both Tony and I, we really kind of celebrate the relationship that we have. In part, I think, because we really genuinely work well together. But I also think it's important for us, we both recognize that we want to project the fact that working together is our responsibility. Working together for regional governance is what I think the voters and the taxpayers expect of us. And so I want to make sure that whenever I get a chance, I let people know I work well with Tony Preckwinkle, and we've done some good things together. So thank you, Tony, for joining me. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the best county administrator in all of the land. If I may say, I'm a little biased. Tom Kuklich is here, ladies and gentlemen, too. Most importantly, a shout out to my wonderful wife, Julie. There she is, the lovely Julie. For more than a quarter of a century, she's been my sounding board. Each year, around this time of year, I start bouncing City Club speech ideas off my lovely wife. And this time, it was a little more challenging. We went back and forth for a while. I said, maybe, dear, I'll talk about the state budget. And she said, no, don't, she groaned. Please, not one more word about the budget until there is one. So I said, okay, fine. I said, maybe I'll talk about how the governor's race is shaping up. You know, the Democrats throwing their hat in the ring left and right. She goes, no, are you kidding me? You're a Republican. Everyone knows you're supporting the governor. You have friends who are Democrats, and you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, so just zip it. All right? So I said, okay, fine, I get that. That's wisdom, right? And then I said, well, heck, how about Trump? Everybody's got something to say about Trump, right? And then my wife thought about it for a moment, and she said, well, that's probably fine, dear, but be careful what you say, because remember that Kellyanne Conway? After some of the things she said, she disappeared faster than the lines at the United Airlines counter. We like a little humor. Thank you. But she's right. Julie's right, and all of us recognize this. Political life these days really is a roller coaster, and I thought things were crazy in this business when Blagojevich was in office. This guy Trump's got something to say about everything, but honestly, what's he say? Watch it, Cronin. It's silliness there. It's all a bit like a soap opera, though, isn't it, really? All of this nonsense, all this noise that's going on, it's very much like a soap opera. The question is, I think, that we have to ask ourselves is, are we positively, effectively engaged, or are we just waiting to see who wins and who loses? And what about progress on issues and solving the problems that confront our state and our nation? When we're in a standoff, progress is the collateral damage. Writing about the health care debate on Capitol Hill this spring, Peggy Noonan beautifully summarized the situation by saying, quote, people need simplicity and clarity. They deserve it. They'll pay for it as best they can. A lot, if they have to. But they need not to be jerked around anymore. And coming together on health care issues, yeah, that's right, thank you. For example, would mark important progress. Progress people remember at election time because it solves one of their essential personal problems. But as we know, some politicians have forgotten that making progress is actually a win. Progress equals a win. In my view, if you hold elected office, making progress is your job, and it's the reason people put you there. We in local government depend on progress, even incremental progress that gets bills, funding, programs approved or defeated so that we have a roadmap for governing in our counties and our municipalities. We hear it often that government should be run more like a business, right? But government is not a business. It's messy. It's not an exact science. Leaders like President Trump want to get things done, but I think he's starting to figure out it's more complicated than he figured during the campaign. So what do you think? Should business innovation be part of government culture? Can you run government like a business? Well, in my experience running DuPage County, the answer is yes and no. And let me explain. Yes, government is big, diverse, and has vastly different mission than a singular business, no doubt about it. And yes, also to those who believe the lessons of business can be adopted by government. But you also have to acknowledge it's government's job to deal with the problems that nobody else wants to deal with. It's not as black and white as a business deal might be. And if you pay close attention, you can find local government decision makers trying every day to modernize and innovate and save a buck or two here and there. But of course, those stories don't usually make the Twitter feed. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous. That's our responsibility, right? Yeah, this guy's, what a character. And that's being kind, I suppose. But no, you don't need a Wall Street lawyer. You don't need a Wall Street Ivy League MBA to tell you how to do this. Most of government is basic blocking and tackling. When I've been faced with rising costs and dwindling resources, I revisit the lessons taught by the best CFO I learned from as a child, my mom. Claire Cronin, ladies and gentlemen. So that's where I learned the best lessons. Claire Cronin. Sure, it was the olden days. It was the Leave It to Beaver times, no doubt about it. We had a one-wage earner in my family, and my parents raised 9 children, sending us all to college and beyond. And my mom, Claire Cronin, took finite resources, a group with a variety of interests and talents. You could call us a sometimes vocal mob who didn't elect her. But she figured out how to feed us, clothe, house, get us into and through college, and while all balancing the budget. She was resourceful, self-sufficient, and disciplined. Now, it sounds simple, but every day we try to apply those virtues to our local government in DuPage, and I'm sure most of you do in the areas of your expertise in your local government. But let me give you a few examples, if I may. For instance, my mom, and probably your mom and dad, taught us to shop around for the best deal, right? In government, we call it procurement, but it's basically bargain hunting. In DuPage County, we focus on accountability as part of our ACT initiative, which stands for Accountability, Consolidation, and Transparency. But the A is first for a reason. It's accountability for cost, for responsibility, and for our actions. Thanks to a focus on efficiency, cost-cutting, and accountability to our taxpayers over the last 6 years, we can now credit our ACT initiative with saving DuPage residents a projected conservative $121 million. For example, we saved significant amount of money when we decided to join with Kane County to house our juvenile detainees in Kane County's regional facility. Our shared service agreement allowed us to close our juvenile detention facility, which was not being fully utilized. But it's not enough to just economize. In the Cronin family, for 9 kids, we bought in bulk, and we look for economies of scale. In DuPage, we've done this on a couple of different levels, several types of purchases. For example, over the past 2 years, we established a joint purchasing contract for road salt. It's not real sexy or glamorous, but road salt. With 28 municipalities and 9 townships, we've negotiated a lower price, saved our taxpayers over 20%. Over the previous year. And you know, before my mom went shopping, she was very careful to take inventory of what we had in the cupboards. She cleaned out closets and reused and recycled what she could. We were big on hand-me-downs. I mean, that's the reality, right? And we didn't need, or what became obsolete, whatever we didn't need was out the door. That was called spring cleaning. And one of the most troubling features of government in the state of Illinois is that we don't clean out government's closets. You might describe us as a habitual institutional pack rats in local government. We have more units of local government than we need and the highest property tax rate in the nation to support them. I call it a legacy government system, with some units set up decades and decades ago to solve problems that we no longer have. In DuPage, thanks to special legislation we passed in 2013, we got the authority to dissolve up to 13 units of local government. We've eliminated 4. We've got 2 more this year. One example, the folks in unincorporated Naperville Century Hill Lighting District, that district came about some 30 years ago. They needed some folks to change streetlights and maintain them, so they formed a local government for this. And the three older gentlemen who've been doing this for 30 years, they didn't want to do it anymore. And one board member, Tom Cieslak, he came to us. Thanks to our legislation, we were able to dissolve it. The C in the ACT initiative, consolidation, allows us to find efficient, cost-effective solutions for service delivery when existing units of government way of doing business is out of date or has grown too costly. Just a few moments ago, I told you about how we closed our juvenile detention facility. Earlier this month, we broke ground on an effort to repurpose that same facility, now serving 44 agencies that make up DUCOM, our DuPage Public Safety Communication or Regional Emergency Dispatch Service. Our Emergency Telephone System Board Chairman, Gary Grasso, who is supposed to be here today, he had the idea to repurpose this facility, and I got to give him a lot of credit. Consolidating, reusing, repurposing. But as we are bringing DUCOM on campus with similar agencies, it underscores my next point. When possible, share with your neighbors. We do it with our friends that live near us, and we do it in local government. We're not shy about putting our heads together to work on our problems. I believe this is one area that government perhaps can do better than private businesses because there's no proprietary interests in government. We can all borrow the things that work and collaborate and come together. There's no secret sauce. There's no trademark protections. We have to learn to be able to share and consolidate and collaborate, even if it's just functional consolidation. So can government act more like business? Well, we can if we use the common sense lessons we've absorbed throughout our lives. The final lesson in this case from my dad, God rest his soul. This lesson is one that it guides me to this day, and it is keep your eye on the numbers, or as my dad would say, follow the money. And we've all heard that expression, but despite the fact that there's no state budget, we as county leaders must still turn on the lights. We still have to pave the roads. We have to do the inspections. We've got to sign the contracts. We've got to find social service solutions for our needy residents. We've got to care for the old and disabled. We have to fulfill that mission. Whether there's a budget or not, we have to govern. It's not any easier, I can tell you, in this environment. In fact, it's incredibly challenging. Our job doesn't stop just because there's no budget. As we try to do more with less, what do our statistics tell us? Well, that's the final part of our ACT initiative, the T, which stands for transparency. Let me share a few numbers with you. One, 4.1%. That's the unemployment rate in DuPage. It's one of the lowest in the Chicago metropolitan region. Next, 36 million. We cut the sales tax rate by 1/4 cent in June, saving DuPage consumers $36 million a year. That's $36 million extra dollars that they have to shop and to spend and to help pay their kids' tuition. We think that that's helped the economy. 43.9. The 2017 DuPage County budget is $43.9 million lower than it was when I took office in 2010. And we did all of that without raising this number, and that is 66.9. That's our property tax levy, which has remained flat since I have been in office. Earlier, I mentioned the challenges we face in county government, and there are some numbers that tell that story too. They illustrate the difference between running a business and the important mission of serving people. Here are two numbers I find deeply disturbing: 78 and 53. 78 people died in DuPage County last year due to heroin or opioid abuse, overdose. That's up 53% over last year. And we're certainly not alone. The headlines in every city, every county are similar, warning of an epidemic of addiction and overdose death. I wish I could say that we found the successful formula to zero those numbers out, but we haven't. I can't even tell you with any real confidence that we're getting ahead of it. I think we're losing that battle right now. Perhaps you see why I believe deeply that the results of our ACT initiative are meaningful. We're not trying to save money and modernize and consolidate just for the heck of it. We do it because we're able to wring value from each dollar we collect and reallocate those resources to the areas that are most challenging and most difficult, like the heroin opioid crisis. I'd like to see the ACT initiative spread throughout Illinois. If you paid attention to the grand bargain, Senate Bill 3, I know that a lot of you have read all the fine print, I know Rob has. It would extend the power to consolidate units of local government to all counties across the state. We're gratified to see that the conversation in Springfield on the grand bargain includes this important component. 4 years ago, when our DuPage County team worked to pass Senate Bill 494 in 2013, it was the only piece of consolidation legislation out there, and it was a hard-fought battle. In the spring of 2016, lawmakers introduced 22 pieces of legislation, and this spring of 2017, 40 bills have been filed. So I think there's kind of a movement underway. The voters are paying attention. At the polls earlier this month, we saw support for consolidation measures which passed in Hanover Township, in Lisle, in Naperville, in Addison, and even among mosquito abatement entities in Milton Township. As the Chicago Tribune opined, yes, these are small steps forward, but you know what? They're steps forward. A few weeks ago, I testified about our experiences before the State Senate Government Reform Committee. I explained just what I've told you here, and I conveyed the interest I have received from other county board chairmen in Lake, McHenry, Winnebago. This is Frank Haney out in Winnebago, Mr. Haney. He's my new buddy. He's got monumental challenges, but he's doing a marvelous job. As I wrap up today, I leave you, if I may, please, with one final thought. Each year, the Friday before St. Patrick's Day, I host a corned beef and cabbage dinner. And we have a great time. It's a great party. We have bagpipers, Irish dancers. It's a huge celebration. This year, my good friend Donovan Pepper, and many of you, I'm sure, know him from Walgreens, Donovan and his wife Heidi brought their 10-year-old son Dylan to the party. And Dylan has seen his dad, undoubtedly, for years, snapping selfies with all the politicians and the VIPs that he meets in work events. So at our dinner, Dylan thought that he'd follow in his old man's footsteps and snap his own selfies with all the important people he could find. So Donovan and Heidi have taught Dylan that we elected officials are worthy of respect. No doubt they've taught him that lesson. That we're leaders who can change the world that Dylan will someday inherit. And if you look at Dylan's pictures, you can see he's just thrilled to snap a shot with the mayors, the governor, other leaders at the dinner. Dylan thought that night that he was in the room where it happens. And when we, as the adults in charge, find ourselves in the room where it's happening, let's remember the look on Dylan's face. Let's resolve to come together and create progress, even incremental progress that moves our communities and our state forward. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to let this kid down. Thank you very much.
Question time, question time. Somebody's bringing me some questions. I do have one here. Yes, there's one. Our City Club folks are going to help get that up here. And here's another. Brian Bernadone. All right, here we go. This, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chairman. This question is from Josh Ellis of the Metropolitan Planning Council.
I know Josh. There he is.
Yeah, we know Josh, and we noticed that Josh has very accurately reported that he is not a member of the City Club.
Ooh, well, at least he came clean.
Yeah, there is a hope on the way out there. All right. So Josh says, you have said you hope that DuPage's ACT initiative will be replicated statewide. How do we make that happen? What is to gain and what is to lose in doing so?
Well, thank you. Well, Josh, you and I are working together on one major strategy to try to bring that experience statewide, and that is an organization that we have formed called Transform Illinois. And if you don't know about it, I would really, really strongly recommend or urge you to please find out a little bit more about it. Because of our experience feeling so lonely when we were down there pursuing this consolidation a few years ago, we figured that the culture needed to be changed. We figured that there needed to be an organization that supports these efforts, that there's some way to make people who are running for elective office to hold up some brand that says you're doing the right thing and finding efficiencies and streamlining government. Transform Illinois is a coalition of the Metropolitan Planning Council, the Better Government Association, League of Women Voters. It's a fabulous group, civic committees involved, and we're doing our best to raise awareness, to identify folks that are doing good things in their community, to strategize and try to advance and spread the gospel about consolidation. We recognize that every community is different. That's why it makes it very complicated. But please, if I can take one liberty with that question, and that is, please check out Transform Illinois.
Terrific. Thanks very much. From Brian Bernadoni, a member of the City Club. Chairman, the collaborative partnership between you and President Preckwinkle is an amazing story. In your opinion, what has been the greatest success that you two have brought about, and how does the future look for cooperation between the counties?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, we've gotten together on a number of issues. I think Tony led the effort in really trying to come forward on regional economic development issues. And we have focused on certain industries like metal. We've focused on transportation. In fact, one simple example of what we did together was, we all know that this is kind of the central part of America. Transportation is king, right? Tom Marcucci and Rocky know that with being in the transit business. But if you're a trucker, over-the-road trucker, and you want to drive through this Chicagoland area, and you might be coming from, Denver, and you've got to go to, Columbus, Ohio. It's really very complicated to drive through the Chicagoland region. The number of permits and fees, it's astounding. So we put together a group, simple, not real complicated, not going to, you're not going to read about it on the front page of the, Wall Street Journal. But we think we did make some very meaningful progress where a trucker or a trucking company coming through this part of the country, it's much more streamlined, far fewer permits and fees that need to be paid and forms that need to be filled out. So we've collaborated on a number of things. And I think working together on economic issues has been really vitally important to both of us individually and to the region.
Well, funny you should say that, because Ed Sitar, member of the City Club from ComEd, said, please talk about the Chicago Regional Growth Initiative that you've helped advance with President Preckwinkle. So maybe a couple of sentences, sir.
Well, Tony, I'm going to throw this one to you. Do you want to? So the Chicago Regional Growth Initiative has been a collaborative effort to really try to identify those industries where we have some area of expertise, where we have, whether it's the food and meat packing or transportation, and we've really tried to immerse ourselves in it. And I come from a school of thought where really what can government do to help businesses other than get out of their way? But there are things we can do, and there are tools that we have, and we can join together. We stood with President Preckwinkle and I and the mayor of the city of Chicago and helped advance repurposing facilities for manufacturing. We're trying to figure out how we can come together and collaborate on capital to help, whether they get a capital bill in Springfield or not. We're looking at how we could advance maybe a local capital bill to help with infrastructure. So, it's been a good collaboration. We've had some wins. I think there's some grant program that we're eligible to receive some huge number of grants. I haven't seen any of the grants yet, but we're aggressively pursuing those, primarily for manufacturing, metal, sort of the fabricating and punch press and things of that nature. We really are trying to figure out how we can also do a better job with job training, collaborate with community colleges. So it's kind of a myriad of issues, but it's been significant, and we continue to be very engaged.
Thank you. And Grant Eckhoff, not a member of the City Club, according to his own affiliation, DuPage County, he asks, Chairman, who is your favorite and most powerful board member in DuPage County?
Well, you're my favorite Grant. You're my favorite County Board District 4 member from Wheaton that lives over near the fairgrounds.
Who says we don't make news at the City Club? All right. Professor Richard Thennis, who I believe is a member of the City Club, asks, does the state of Illinois need so many state representatives and state senators to run the great state of Illinois? And also, why don't we have a balanced budget?
Yeah, and I mean, you want me to give you the theory of relativity as well? So,
General relativity.
yeah, right. Well, first of all, I think it's a popular idea that if you have less people in the room, you might be able to have greater degree of success in arriving. I don't know if that's necessarily true. If you look at the historical experience here in the state of Illinois, when we did have multi-member districts back in the old days, and the leadership was not as powerful. So you could have coalitions of folks, legislators that would come together, and then they could advance bills. So I guess I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian in my answer, Doctor. I actually think that having fewer people and with the advancement of the power of the legislative leader, I think we actually have less opportunity to come together. We have less opportunity for legislators to step out on their own or to form coalitions with other folks. And so, yeah, and then with regard to the balanced budget, I mean, that's a long, complicated problem, and there's a lot of blame to go around with a lot of folks. But suffices to say, I'm on the board at Dominican University. They 53% of the children, the kids, students that attend are MAP dependent, monetary award program. I mean, it's shameful. I mean, so this is an institution. My mother went there, and it's a fabulous place, but this is a very, very trying time. Vaccines. I mean, heck, there's, healthcare providers aren't getting paid so we're seeing fewer and fewer kids getting vaccinated. So, I mean, there's some serious issues and consequences when you don't have a budget. And I commend Senator Radonio and Senator Cullerton, who are really trying to make something happen down there. I think that's why they're elected. That's why they're there. I know it's tough. I know whatever they've been talking about and the proposal as it's been published is far from something that is popular or people want to have their name associated with. But you know what? It's lawmaking. It's inexact. It's messy. This is the first step. Let's get something going. Let's get some kind of a compromise budget. I think it takes political will, Doctor, and I think in this day and age we've not seen a lot of political will among enough people in Springfield.
Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you.
Join me